Welcome to CAS 133, Columbia Gorge Community College, the Dalles, Oregon, Mrs. Hughitt, instructor. We are into finals week. You need to complete a final project. It can be a photo story, as we're going to talk about in this video. It can be an iMovie, and there is a movie for iMovie. It can be a PowerPoint, and everybody should watch the intro movie and the PowerPoint video so that you have those basic guidelines. So let's kind of talk about what you have to do. You have to have your name on the title slide. You have to have your title, of course, on the slide. If you don't turn one in, you will get a C in the class, or at least that is the highest grade you can get. If you're close to a C already, CD border, and you don't turn in a 100-point project, it could drop you to a D, and then you will not pass the class. So these are really important to complete. This is not a good idea to blow these off and go, oh, well, I've got, so much else to do, because it could really impact your ability in the class to pass or not pass. So what do you do for a photo story? Well, first thing is it's going to be 100 points, as I just said. You have to have at least 2 slides that are going to be PowerPoint slides. They typically are going to be your title slide and either an ending / sources slide. Obviously, if you don't have any sources, it'll be an ending slide. If you have sources to list, then it'll be a sources slide. They can have pictures, they can have typed information on those slides. If you don't remember how to make a photo story, the video is in there, so you can go back and watch that to help you remember how to make a photo story. You can add music from either within photo story or from another source. Just be really careful that you follow copyright, and I talk a lot more about copyright down here. That can really drop your grade dramatically if you don't follow copyright. One warning about photo story and outside music, like from iTunes or someplace else, you have to make sure it's in an MP3 format, which means if you don't know how to get whatever it is to an MP3 format, you don't have a converter, you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't want to try to include outside music. You want to use the music from within photo story. You can also add voiceover, and I really encourage you to do that, simply because of the fact that it adds a lot to your story and really tells about who's there, what you're doing. If you don't want to be the narrator, have somebody else narrate it. It's a great way to record family voices for the future. If you have some elderly, have them tell some stories about, oh, I remember when we went camping, to go with the picture or whatever. Wish I had that for my mom and dad, and I don't. And then, of course, obviously, as I've said about 6 times already, make sure you do have that sources slide. If you do a picture, it should have the URL right on the slide, but that's almost impossible in photo story, so we'll talk about how you're going to get around that. You can also scrapbook, so that means you could go into PowerPoint and make a totally cool presentation, scrapbooked everything, and save all the slides as JPEGs and put in here. You have lots of options. Just be sure that if you did all the pictures, that you give yourself credit, so I know that. So you make your PowerPoint as usual, just like we've always done. You save it just like we've always done, and then you come back to save it the next time. And I have pictures on the next slide. You drop the box just like we did when we did Paint to JPEG or WordPad to TXT files, and you save them as JPEG or JPEG. And then it'll ask if you want to save all slides or just that slide. You pick all, and just make sure you know where it goes. I would put it in the folder where I have my pictures and my photo story being saved, etc. So you go in here and you go to File, and you go to Save As, just like we've done who knows how many times by this point. You drop the box. This is part of the reason we learned it the first week, that this is a useful skill to know. And you choose JPEG or JPEG right here. Just so you know, you can save things as a PDF. It's a nice skill to know. Doesn't work for what we're doing. You want the JPEG, but you now know it can be done. You hit save and you move on. It'll ask one slide or all. Now, Photo Story does not work on Windows 8, 8.1, 10, any of those newer ones, but it does work on XP, Vista, and Windows 7. If you have an older machine hanging around the house, like an XP or a Vista machine, you can easily download it there. Some of you are still using Windows 7 machines all the time. I am. Part of the reason why is I don't want to lose my photo story. So you can go to Microsoft, you tell them, find the downloads, they always rebuild it, so no use showing you. Search for photo stories, and you want photo story 3. There are a couple of different types there. And then you want to go ahead and install it. It will say it's for XP, but you're okay on Vista and you're okay on Windows 7. Oh, and by the way, for Windows 8 users, the library does have this downloaded and installed on some machines in the library on the Dalles campus. So if you don't have an option at home, but you'd still like to try the program and learn the skills, go for it. Mentioning learning skills. Why are we taking this class? Hopefully it's because you want to learn new things and learn to do different things with your computer than what you used to know. This is a perfect time to step out and try that. I know students sometimes get scared with the idea that they're trying something new and different and it happens to be on a final project. But understand, I do take that into consideration. I do sort of give you bonus points for being brave enough to step out and give it a shot. Same with iMovie. And so I've never had anybody get less than a B that I can remember on a photo story. And that's basically only a B because they really didn't do very much with it. It was a real minimal effort. So you should be able to do just fine. I encourage you, learn something new. You have the chance right now. When are you going to go back and do it? Probably not. One thing that comes up in Photo Story that's kind of a warning is when you get to this screen, it does a lot of cool things. It lets you save the project. Most people are pretty good about that. It lets you browse to basically find the location of where you want to store it. So in other words, you can direct it to where you want to go and not have to hunt it down. It lets you change the settings, come here Mousy, so that you can make it the quality you want. Now I have a reasonably decent machine. I'm running an AMD, I'm not sure exactly what the processor is, but I guess I can look because I've shown you guys how to do that. It's an AMD A6 3420. It's a 1.5 gigahertz, but being an AMD quad core, it moves along pretty good with 6 gigs of RAM. It does pretty well. I really haven't hit anything it won't do. So save it however you want to save it. If you save it in too low a resolution, it's going to look kind of pixelated like we talked about with photos. If you save it the super high resolution, it is going to take a fairly good computer to run it. So usually somewhere kind of in the middle. And you can see I have some suggestions on the screen for like 640 for 80 for older machines and 1024 by 768 for newer machines. And mine will be able to handle that with no problem. Now, you've got to do this last step, and that's hit this next. Because if you don't hit this next, you don't actually create the video, the WMV file. I don't want you to upload the WP3 file. Moodle often won't accept it if it's too large, although last term I did have somebody manage to upload it, not watch their email, and get a low score for it. It would have been a cool project if they'd, 1, finished it, and 2, watched their email, so they would have finished it. It's going to go through this process, and it's going to say building your story and preparing the video. This will take a bit. If you don't see that happen, you've missed that next down there. When you've gone it through and you've gone next and next and next and next, and you get up on your desktop, you should see these two things. See how this is pretty and colorful and looks like it's got the little cute clock? That is a photo story version. That is not what you want to upload. You want to upload the one that has the, I don't know if you even remember the old film strips, but the film strip type look here, or the old reel films down the side, and that's the WMV file. Make sure you get the right one, and make sure you watch your email, so if you do have a problem, I can go through and send you an email and get you to fix that last step. It's one step. It'll take you, now it depends on how fast your machine is and how big your photo story is, so I'll be generous. It'll take you 15 minutes. Usually it's not that long, unless you made a really huge one. Sources, this is one of my pet peeves. You need to make sure that you do use sources. So if you use any image that's not yours, you need to go to the end on a PowerPoint slide and say, slide 1, www.greatart.com. Slide 2, www.artdealer.com. Whatever it is, so that you show where you got it from. Do not tell me you got it from Google. Images, do not tell me you got it from Bing. You're telling me the browser you're using. You're not telling me the URL, the www. I have to be able to go to exactly where you said you got it from, and I should see the picture on that page. If so, you got it right. Sources for, like if you do some research or information, then those go on that sources slide as well. And then that sources slide is, of course, converted to a JPEG and put into the PowerPoint or into the photo story. Now, just remember, those PowerPoint slides, once they're made into JPEGs, they're just images. They're just pictures, like any other picture you put into photo story. So you put them in on that very first screen. So you might have to go back to the first screen and then just insert those JPEGs in here, just like any other picture. There's nothing special. There's no fancy directions that I'm forgetting to tell you. Just put them in like a picture and go next, back where you want. Also, remember, you can move them around on the timeline at the bottom so you have them in the order you want. Again, if it's something, the picture you've taken, family, friends have taken, make sure you cite your source on that so we know where it came from. Again, you have the option for extra credit. If you want to do an extra credit project, you want to complete a second photo story, a second PowerPoint, a photo story and a PowerPoint, an iMovie and a photo story. It's totally up to you how you combine them. When you're done, show them to somebody, and if a person goes, oh, wow, then that's the one you want to upload for your final project. That's your 100-pointer. That's where you want it to go. If they look at the next one, they go, oh, that's really nice. That's probably your 40-pointer. If you don't have somebody to look, do the same type of evaluation if you're to yourself and say, this is the one I really love. Then you want to put that in your 100-point slot for the final project and put the other one in the 40-point slot for the extra credit. Again, the links are right there in Moodle. Make sure you start upload soon enough that you don't run into any sort of problem with time with that 8 o'clock ending. If you have the hokey pokey internet that takes forever, you may need to go someplace else to do your uploading. You may need to go into town. You may need to go to Sherry's, buy a Pepsi, have a piece of pie, and sit and upload your stuff. Go up to the college, one of the campuses, and sit there. Downtown, the Dalles has free Wi-Fi. If you're doing it on a desktop, I'd suggest you have it done before the college library closes so that in case you do have problems, you can go to the library and upload. Slow connections can happen and they'll time out and you're never going to get it uploaded. You're going to have to find a faster connection. Now, if you're on like the cable and you're in town and you have screaming fast internet, then no big deal, you'll be fine. But a lot of rural people don't have that luxury, me included. On the photo story, do make sure it's the WAV file, just to keep reminding you of that detail, because I usually have at least one person a term that missed that detail. And that does it. You're ready to get your project done and submitted.